Hey there, folks. It's Javier here, coming to you live. I'm just outside, kind of enjoying the day, and so it's good to be outside sometimes. But I want to talk a little bit about Israel on this little tiny podcast. Okay, so many of you know that. I mean, many of you, maybe not all of you, but many of you know that my stance has been unchanging. It's been very consistent, if you will, on Israel, and why I've continued to stand with and stand up for Israel. And I'm going to continue to explain this stance, and I want to dive into at least 3 points on this, at least 3 points of this. First of all, let's just get it out of the way. Let's just get the first reason out of the way. It's in the Bible. It's the apple of God's eye. We're supposed to stand with it. We're supposed to, defend it because it's the Holy Land. It's the land where Christ walked, the prophets walked. It's the land of the Bible, all that stuff. So first and foremost, let's just get that out of the way that, I do believe that, the Jewish people were actually chosen by God. And I'm just saying the first reason first, and then I want to get into the more deep reasons. Okay, so just stay with me here. Don't log off yet. Stay with me. But the first reason is, yes, it is God's holy land. It is the Holy Land. It is the land that God chose, for the Israelites, for the Jewish people. And it is the land that, of the Bible, where Christ walked, where the prophets walked, where the biblical sites are. It is the apple of God's eye. And it is the, if you bless Israel, God will bless you. If you curse Israel, God will curse you. I do believe that. Now, that first and foremost, I stand by that as a value. Now, secondly, and we're going to get into a third reason. The third reason is probably going to be the most deep one. But the second reason is because we are, we have always been an ally to Israel, and Israel has always been an ally to us. Since World War II, etc., we've always stood with Israel. And this used to not even be a matter of controversy. At one point, Democrats and Republicans, as much as they disagreed on so many things, Democrats and Republicans have always stood with Israel. The United States has always stood with Israel. European nations have always stood with Israel. And it all goes down to a biblical thing. It's we know that internally we are called to defend this tiny nation. We are called to defend Israel. We are called to have Israel's back if they are under attack or under siege or in danger. And this has been a good thing that up until recently, the Democrats and Republicans on both sides have agreed on this. The Democrats and Republicans have agreed on this on both sides. And the third reason, and the third thing I'm going to get at is that that's changing. And I want to talk a little bit about why and how that is changing. Because it looks to me, in the modern day, there's a pushing move by both the far right and the far left to abandon Israel. Nick Fuentes himself said that he wants the United States. He said it openly. I listened to one of his podcasts. He said it openly. Nick Fuentes said openly that he wants the United States to abandon Israel. He says, we're done. We got to stop sending them money. We got to stop, fighting their wars. We got to stop. We got to leave them. He said it. He openly said we need to abandon them. And he's followed by, once again, a lot of Gen Z young men, who are streaming this content all the time, and it's really, really sad. That is another topic. That really is. But that's not the topic of this video. The reality of the matter is that he's followed by all these people, all these right-wing, hard-right, young people who agree with him. And they agree with Nick Fuentes that the United States needs to literally abandon Israel. And then over on the left, we have many people, young people again, yes, young people on both sides, particularly young people on both sides, the right and the left, that on the left that say we got to stand with Gaza, stand with Palestine, stand with etc., and they want the United States to abandon Israel too. And they're doing a lot of attacks, if you will, on the Democratic Party for continuing to stand with Israel. And so we have a situation where both people on the right and the left, young people in particular, a lot of emboldened, red-pilled, right-wing young men on the right, and a lot of just young people, secular, pro-Gaza, pro-Palestine, young people, brainwashed young people on the left, and they both are now coming together on one thing, and that one thing is that they want to abandon Israel. And this is the part where things are getting dangerous. We've never been into this part before. We've never seen this before. We've never seen such a move of young people, in my lifetime at least, where we have all these young people on both sides that literally want to abandon Israel. And I get that, I'm aware that there's some kind of genocide going on, and I know that, that Israel has probably done some bad things that they do, and we do need to condemn those things. I agree with the fact that we need to condemn any atrocities or genocide, any atrocities that Israel is committing. We need to stand up and condemn it. I agree with that. It's the right thing to do, because I don't want to see children or mothers or fathers or family get hurt who are in Gaza or Palestine, etc., etc. But again, it goes both ways, because there's a conflict going both ways. And that's just the reality of it. But right now we're at a point where it's just a lot of the older generation Democrats and Republicans want to continue to stand with Israel. A lot of the young people who are listening to Tucker Carlson and whatever, and who else? We're listening to Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and even Candace Owens, even though she's going off on her own road. But Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and a whole bunch of these other ones, and plus who are listening to all these left-wingers who are pro-Gaza and all that stuff on the left, they want to abandon. So this brings me to a point where it's just this is kind of a scary time in our nation, if you will. This is kind of a scary time in our nation. And I really, and I've said this for many times. I've said this before for many times. I really continue to fear for the younger generations. The younger generations, I hate to say it, I'm going to be honest, on both sides, on both the right and the left, the younger generations are going off the rails. They're going off the rails. That's the sad truth. They're either super far right, or they're super far left. And that's just where we're at today. That's just what we come to today. And it's just really, it's sad and it's scary. It's very scary for the future of the United States. It's scary for the future of our country that we actually are willing on both sides, young people on both sides, on the extreme right and the extreme left, are willing to abandon an ally that we've had for decades and decades and decades and decades, for so long. An ally that's always been loyal to us. And ultimately, that could bring, in the Christian point of view, my Christian point of view, that could bring some kind of judgment on our nation. And it's scary to think about, but even just in general, the fact that we are now lusting to abandon a longtime ally should terrify us. On both sides, that we're lusting to abandon a longtime ally, that we really want to do it, that there's people that really want to do it on the right and on the left, both, on the extremes of both, that we want to abandon a longtime ally that we helped all the way back to the Holocaust and World War II and all that, who's always had our back, we've always had their back. And that's scary. That's terrifying. And that's terrifying for the future generations of this country, and that's terrifying for the future of our country as a whole. So, like I said, this is why, I want to, like I said, I'm not saying we don't need to condemn the atrocities that Israel is committing. Okay, I'm not saying we don't need to not condemn that. We should. If Israel's condemning doing any atrocities, we do need to condemn that. That's right. because there's people and families and mothers and fathers and children on both sides, and we need to stand up for those people and family and mothers and fathers and children on both sides. We don't want anybody to be, any innocent civilians or people to be suffering involved as a result of this conflict. But we do need to continue to have Israel's back in general. We have to. We have to, for the sake of the future of this country, for the sake of our future generations, for the sake of our future just in general, even spiritually. And it's scary to see such a call to abandon Israel on the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson right wing, and on the maybe even the Mandani left wing, if you will, or the Sanders left wing, or the pro-Gaza, whatever, I don't even understand, left wing. It's kind of scary, but these are just my thoughts. I've always been a firm supporter of Israel, and as far as I know, that's how I'm going to stay. So thank you for watching. Food for thought. I'll talk to you all later.